Join us now as we awaken to the timeless beauty of the divine. Stepping into this fresh chapter marks the moment you transcend every slight, every grueling trial, and every instance when your impact was minimized. Those who once doubted your potential will soon face the reality that their choice was a mistake. By cosmic design, your journey is propelled by relentless currents poised to silence every remaining critic. Every time someone tried to keep you confined, they unwittingly became the builders of your swift rise. Their backstabs honed your instincts, and every closed door gently steered you toward opportunities that resonated more deeply with your true self. When they aimed to extinguish your flame, you found fresh fuel inside to burn with even greater brilliance. Ironically, those who believed they were chronicling your downfall were actually drafting the opening lines of your triumph. In the end, their mistaken narrative paved the way for your undeniable victory. Adversity became the forge in which your true strength was shaped. Even as the bond between you and them fractured, they found themselves unable to fully break free. Time and again, their urge to stay connected overrode their better judgment, pulling them into your orbit, trailing by your street without conscious thought, turning up at your favorite spots on spurious pretexts, and endlessly refreshing your updates online. In trying to distance themselves, they only confirmed the power of your presence. Ultimately, their own compulsions underscored the very influence they thought they could escape. Even though their own inner darkness made them want to put out the light you were radiating, they were feeling the attraction of genuine power. During this time, your psychic powers were growing in ways that would have seemed unthinkable just months before. Prophecies started to appear in dreams. Real-time intelligence about circumstances before they fully developed was first provided by that inner voice. People from farther away than should have been able to feel your presence. Your inner eye became aware of energy cords, which made it clear to you who was truly sending love and who was attempting to drain your power. These skills weren't brand new. As your spiritual operating system evolved, those outdated features came back online. Then came the moment that made all the difference. You know the one. The time someone abused your confidence so thoroughly, crossed a line so brazenly, or played a game so blatantly that something inside of you said enough, with a finality that even shocked you. The fury you experienced wasn't harmful. It was imaginative. Only the unbreakable core of who you truly are remains when everything inauthentic is burned away by the righteous fire. Your entire strength was released at that sacred outburst, and everyone in your vicinity sensed the change right away. See what transpired next. Those who had become accustomed to having unrestricted access to your energy were abruptly disconnected without warning. The people who thought they had a right to your emotional labor found that the well was empty. Those who had been interpreting your generosity as weakness came to the realization that their calculations were disastrously off. Some attempted to manipulate you under the pretext of concern in order to guilt you back into old habits. Other people tried to provoke you into a reaction by making you appear unstable. With the clarity of someone who has graduated from their school of illusion, however, you were able to see through these strategies. This enlightenment caused your gifts to grow enormously. Beloved soul, today is your day of divine promotion. Simply press that super thanks button below and sow your offering of $20, $50, or a generous overflow, and watch as heaven responds with unmatched favor. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. Proverbs 3 verses 9 to 10 ESV. Step into your blessing now. Give cheerfully, click super thanks, and unlock the abundant provision God has reserved just for you. Adult wisdom supported the resurgence of abilities you had as a youngster, but were taught to conceal. It became prophetically accurate, the voice in your head that always knew who to believe. The ability to change a room's vibe just by walking in there ceased to be charismatic and devolved into spiritual authority. Without you giving advice, people started asking for it. The cosmos began rearranging itself around your height in ways that would have appeared to be coincidences if they weren't occurring so frequently, sensing that you had access to the information they need. Possibilities that had previously been unattainable started to materialize with unexpected ease. Not only were doors that had been slammed in your face opening, but the same individuals who had previously protected them from you were now keeping them open, because you had finally matched the frequency of someone who deserved it. You began to receive the resources, recognition, and promotion you had been looking for. Think back to the people who have tried to undermine your growth, who have circulated false information about you, and who have tried to discredit you. They would be rendered speechless by the cosmic irony that was about to be revealed. You were going to find yourself in a position of power over the very people who had attempted to hold you back through a sequence of seemingly unconnected events, a reorganization here, a departure there, a new opportunity emerging. You will soon be reporting to the co-worker who had attempted to get you fired. You would have to offer or withhold a referral to the friend who had been spreading rumors about your mental health. The relative who had disregarded your aspirations would see your success surpass their own accomplishments. This reversal wasn't taking place to boost your self-esteem or facilitate fantasies of retaliation. What you put out always comes back, but not always in the way you want it to. This was the universe proving a basic reality. Your spiritual development was paralleling your physical metamorphosis. Your problems were being mapped out by stress lines that were gradually becoming wisdom lines that talked about victories. You exuded a new type of assurance in your posture, not the fragile armor of someone demonstrating their value, but the easy authority of someone who understands their worth. People started remarking that you appeared younger, more energetic, and brighter, but they were unable to pinpoint the precise changes. They were seeing the radiance that appears when someone quits fighting their fate and begins to flow with it, the outward manifestation of inside alignment. The same magnetic inevitability that had pushed the mismatched out of your orbit was now pulling the people who really belonged there. You didn't have to seek out, persuade, or perform for these relationships. As though you had been waiting for each other for lifetimes, they came with recognition already intact. The depth of the conversations flowed naturally. Instead of seeming like a transaction, the mutual support felt organic. Since you were using the same frequency of consciousness, there was no need to explain the shared vision. Yellow heart if you're moved by divine love. Now is the moment to share it. Click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contribute $50 or more to help us broadcast God's blessings far and wide. Every act of generosity you make is being watched in heaven and will return to you 100-fold. Whatever shape your work took, it was evolving into a conduit for something greater than individual success. There was a level of service that went beyond simple professional proficiency, whether you were managing a team, instructing a class, producing art, or operating a business. In your presence, people experienced a transformation. After interacting with you, they felt more motivated, self-assured, and empowered. This was just what happened when someone who was in line with their purpose showed up and whirled in a real way. It wasn't anything you were attempting to do. Your long-held remorse about not being able to support others as you once could was exposed as misguided compassion. It was clarity, not coldness, that prevented you from tolerating dysfunction. It wasn't desertion when you refused to support others' destructive behaviors. Rather, it was love with boundaries. You weren't more loving. Rather, you were more codependent when you said yes to everything, gave without end, and took crumbs in return. Because you were setting an example of healthy self-respect, the version of yourself that existed now, one with honed standards and unassailable boundaries, was really more loving. Your old colleagues, however, were facing their own challenges. Some were no longer even able to look you in the eye, their eyes slipping away from what had once been effortless eye contact. Their averted glance was filled with shame, the unconsciously acknowledged knowledge that they had made a terrible decision when they had the chance to make a good one. They witnessed in your metamorphosis what might have been for them had they opted for courage over conformity, truth over ease, and progress over comfort. Their lost chances were reflected in your achievement, which had turned into a mirror. Furthermore, some people would prefer to smash the mirror than alter what they see. The energy stalking that had been taking place, people passing your house, popping up out of the blue, obsessively watching your social media, was intensifying. They were unconsciously realizing that you had given them access to something they had long desired, but were unsure of how to get. In an attempt to figure out the secret of your transformation and duplicate it, without having to put in the effort, they were studying you like a textbook. However, they overlooked the fact that your strength was not a tactic that could be imitated. It was an essence that needed to be developed via spiritual discipline, struggle, and surrender. Despite all the commotion surrounding your rise, your hands stayed clean. You opted for growth, while others opted for chaos. You chose elevation, while others chose retaliation. You made the decision to uplift yourself, while others decided to bring others down. Your power increased as a result of your clear conscience. You may go through life without having to worry about regrets or unresolved issues. You remained honest. Your reputation was being restored on the basis of real accomplishment rather than political scheming, and your character remained intact. Everything crystallized when you realized you had more power than you had been utilizing. It wasn't power over other people, which was the fake version weak people were looking for, but rather control over your own energies, decisions, and reactions to life's obstacles. You became unstoppable when you stopped granting your authority to unworthy individuals, stopping to look for approval from unworthy sources, and ceasing to put up with treatment that made you feel less valuable. Your established tough love energy was compassion with boundaries, not harshness. Your readiness to allow them to see the unavoidable repercussions of their decisions was truly a gift, as some individuals can only learn by experiencing them. You were allowing them to gain the power necessary for their own metamorphosis by declining to save them from their own choices. You weren't responsible for the fact that not everyone would use this gift. It was your responsibility to set an example of empowerment, not to coerce people into becoming more empowered. Opportunities started to come in greater numbers and sizes as your new time frame became more established. In your imagination, the book you were supposed to write began to take shape. The company you were destined to create started drawing in the appropriate investors and partners. The platform you were supposed to have began to grow beyond your wildest expectations. These were no longer dreams. They were inevitable events that arranged themselves according to your willingness to accept them. Although fleeting, the loneliness of leadership was genuine. People who had traveled similar paths were attracted into your orbit as you completely assumed your leadership. The discussions you had been longing for, the ones that delved right in, eschewing politeness and going directly to the depths of life, were on the horizon. The partnerships that would greatly increase your influence were beginning to take shape. The love that resonated with you was on the horizon. People who didn't see your worth could no longer use your energy. This was ecological, not conceited, because you now realized that your energy was what produced your reality. You had learned to preserve it like you would any valuable resource. You had grown mercilessly choosy about the exchanges you would have, and every interaction either increased or decreased your life energy. Some people gave you the evil eye for your success, but it has since rebounded off you without injury. Since your light was no longer reliant on their recognition or approval, their envy was unable to extinguish it. To those who could see, the rumors they disseminated about your metamorphosis only promoted your strength. Every effort to damage your reputation served as evidence of your influence. They believed they were hurling stones, but in reality, they were erecting monuments to your power. The people who had pushed your limits, messed with your emotions, and undervalued your strength had accomplished something they never meant to. They served as the resistance that helped you develop your spiritual strength, the shadows that taught you how to create your own illumination. You had to find your own core because of the pandemonium. Dove brothers and sisters, everything done in faith multiplies in God's abundance. Use the Super Thanks feature to donate $100 today and join this sacred mission. When your roots are grounded in Him, your fruit will flourish, and your offering becomes a seed that bears blessed harvests. They had broken you open in their attempts to shatter you, exposing the diamond that had always been there, just waiting for the proper pressure to bring out its brilliance. The little brains that had attempted to control your fate were insignificant. You would have the opportunity to change thousands of lives on the platform for which you were being trained. Others would use your narrative of transformation as a bridge to get to their own promised land. The purpose of the light you had learned to properly care for was to direct others home to themselves, not to be hidden. Prophetic dreams about your growing impact now filled the restless evenings that had begun your trip. Your higher frequency was naturally repelling those who had been energy stalking you, making room for balanced partnerships. You were now in positions of authority over erstwhile enemies, reversing the workplace dynamics that had previously appeared to be stacked against you. The spiritual abilities that had surfaced during your darkest moments were now being used to support the awakening of the collective. The seclusion that had seemed like punishment turned out to be a training ground for leadership, which called for unwavering inner power. Your spiritual elevation is happening at the same time as your financial reality is changing. You receive money through unexpected sources, opportunities that are more like play than job, customers that come across you via enigmatic recommendations, investments that appear to grow on their own. This is because you've mended your connection with abundance, not because you've turned materialistic. You now know that money is only energy, and that energy flows most easily to people who don't push it away in a false sense of humility or grasp at it frantically. Because you are worthy, deserving, and inherently drawn to all types of riches. Your new connection with resources is a reflection of your new relationship with yourself. Without realizing the irony, the people who earlier rejected your ideas are now repeating them back to you. When they come from other people, ideas that you once voiced months or years ago and that were viewed with suspicion or mockery are now being accepted as groundbreaking discoveries. Something profound about the flow of influence through the collective awareness is revealed by this phenomenon. Genuine visionaries frequently sow seeds in brains that aren't yet prepared to recognize the origin of their newly discovered knowledge. Instead of being annoyed by this dynamic, you've learned to see it as proof that your influence is spreading in ways that you might never fully understand. You now sleep deeply and wake up with a clear understanding of the day ahead, a complete change from those hectic nights of early awakening when you used to lie looking at the ceiling and felt as though electrical currents were rewiring your neurological system. You've started maintaining a notebook next to your bed, since your ideal life has become such a dependable source of instruction. Symbolic narratives provide answers to difficult issues. People or situational warnings seem as vivid scenarios that turn out to be prophetically correct. You've learned to implicitly trust the signals from your subconscious mind, which has evolved into a direct line of communication with divine wisdom. Once seemingly infinite sources of drama, family dynamics have undergone a fundamental change. In some ways, relatives who used to agitate you with their dysfunction or criticism now appear smaller and less able to disturb your tranquility. Unconsciously realizing the wisdom you've developed by your experiences, some have even started to seek your advice. People keep their distance from you because they can tell you're not interested in the same old games of guilt and manipulation. In either case, you've disrupted harmful and codependent habits that have been passed down through generations, setting a new standard for generations to come. Even you are surprised by the explosion of your creative expression, whether it's through speaking, writing, art, music, or commercial innovation. Ideas come to you with an almost otherworldly ease. Your genuine self-acceptance has dispelled the obstacles that earlier prevented you from moving forward, such as imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and fear of being judged. You create because it is the natural outflow of a spirit that is in harmony with its source, not to prove anything to anyone, because they sense the truthfulness that permeates every expression. People react to your art with a level of intensity that is rare. A quality of solitude that feels quite different has replaced the loneliness that defined your transformation era. Solemnity used to feel like punishment, but now it feels like luxury. You now understand the distinction between loneliness and solitude, and you value the peaceful times when you can connect with your inner self. Because people are drawn to those who don't need them, but choose to interact anyhow. Your discomfort with your own company has made you extremely desirable to others. In a world when people are longing for help, your independence has become alluring. Together with your consciousness, your body has changed as well. Your long-standing problems have inexplicably disappeared. You're feeling more energized than you ever thought imaginable. You walk through the world with a grace that was before absent, as though your physical frame has finally mastered the art of pleasantly accommodating your larger spirit. Individuals remark on your vibrancy, radiance, and seeming agelessness. They are seeing how the body reacts when the soul is at last allowed to show itself in its true form, the outward expression of internal harmony. The individuals you have let go of are dealing with the fallout on their own, and it doesn't take any work on your part. When others start to see their pattern of treachery, ex-friends who prioritize gossip over loyalty find themselves alone. Colleagues who attempted to undermine your success watch as your project succeeds while theirs fails. Family members who have rejected your development find that, in a world that is changing quickly, their stagnant outlook on life makes them more and more obsolete. You simply quietly realize that the cosmos is always balancing itself without your help, but you don't find any satisfaction in these reversals. It turns out that the spiritual gifts you believed were emerging are considerably more widespread than you first realized. What started out as improved intuition has developed into a skill that is almost prophetic. You've become so adept at creating a healing space for others that just talking to you can cause significant changes in others. The frequency of your words has the power to transform people who are open to receiving it. You're not learning these skills through practice. They are reminders of who you have always been, which have been made visible by removing anything that wasn't truly you. With more and more synchronicities that seem almost too good to be true, your new chronology keeps demonstrating its miraculous nature. Books unfold to reveal the precise pages you require to read. Questions you've been wondering are answered by conversations you overhear in passing. You have to giggle at the accuracy of divine communication when you hear songs on the radio that convey themes so relevant to your circumstances. You are actively conversing with the universe, and each day the exchange becomes more poetic. Glowing star yearning to witness God's miracles firsthand? Plant your spiritual seed now by contributing $100 or more through the YouTube Super Thanks button. Your offering lights the path for others and echoes through His divine plan, bringing His light into every step you take. The job path that appeared unclear during your metamorphosis has solidified into prospects that surpass your most ambitious dreams. The position you believed you desired turns out to be training for the one you were truly destined for. You start receiving ideas and partnerships from the industry contacts you were concerned about forming. Because your genuine knowledge is indisputable to individuals who understand quality, your expertise becomes sought after, not because you're forcing it on others. When success is allowed to arise naturally from aligned effort rather than being anxiously sought, it flows naturally. Even you are amazed at how resilient you have become emotionally. You approach circumstances that would have destroyed your old self with a serene curiosity about what gift they might hold. Without causing internal turmoil, criticism bounces off your bolstered feeling of self. Acknowledgement is given politely, without making you feel inflated. You have discovered the center where nothing can shake your inner tranquility, and when people are around you, they can sense and draw power from this balance. The laws of your new timeline are different from those of your previous one. You now consider synchronicity to be the new normal. Manifestation occurs rather quickly. The right people with the right resources show up at the right times. Challenges vanish before you get to them. Before you knock, doors open. It's not magic. When someone stops resisting the flow of their destiny and fully aligns with their purpose, this is how life looks. The circle finishes itself. The individual who started this metamorphosis in a state of bewilderment and suffering has now become a person who can compassionately and wisely lead others on similar journeys. You are prepared for the triumphs you will achieve in public thanks to the struggles you waged in private. The joy you will feel in the light has been sown by the tears you wept in the dark. Your desperate muttered prayers have been answered in ways more exquisite than you could have ever dreamed. The plot twist they didn't anticipate is that you get to write the finale. The folks who attempted to write you off are now realizing they were actually writing your memoirs. Greetings from your selected timeline. Everything is about to change for everyone whose life you touch with the light you've learned to carry. Not just for you. The universe has been waiting for you to arrive.